Hey everybody in Luqman Nation, this is Jackie Luqman and welcome to an early edition of Live and Coffee Current Events and Politics in Luqman Nation, the most dangerous show on social media. As you can see, I'm riding solo because Mr. Luqman is taking a little time off. He's been under the weather, he's fine. He's just been under the weather and he has been ordered to just take it easy, and he is doing that, especially since today is his birthday. So, he's upstairs, resting, relaxing, as he is being ordered to do, not just by me, but by his doctors also. Cause you know how y'all dudes are. I don't know why y'all don't take care of yourselves like you should, and take your medications like you should, and eat the way you should, even though we wives do everything we can to make sure that you have all the things you need. But y'all are just knuckleheads and stubborn, and he is absolutely that way. So he's just relaxing for a bit. So happy birthday, Mr. Luqman. And Ron, I will definitely give him, he's probably watching, although he's supposed to be asleep, but give him your birthday regards. And he is absolutely having a lovely birthday dinner with cake later on. A little bit of cake. He can't have a lot of cake. But anyway, yeah, so look, I'm not gonna keep you really long, but we gotta talk about this Joe Biden thing. I mean, y'all, people losing their minds. People are, like, I think legit just like being ridiculous over this whole Biden thing. And I don't mean that people should be dismissing it. I mean the exact opposite. I mean the people who are defending Joe Biden are as despicable as Joe Biden for saying what he did. There is no defense of what that man said. There is absolutely none. Uncle Brother, what's going on over there on YouTube? Lene, hey, what's going on? Kai Watts, thanks for joining us on YouTube. Ron and Anthony Davis over here on Facebook. Okay, listen here. Let's recap, shall we? First of all, let me just say that we hate Charlemagne the God. This is not even a defense of Charlemagne the God, whose book Black Privilege pretty much dismissed the need for continued struggle against white supremacy and racism in this country because there are a few rich black people. And I'm not telling you to buy that man's book to give him any more money and any more legitimacy. I don't believe in censoring people's speech. I think crazy, hateful ass people should be able to say, as long as you're not advocating violence against people, say what you need to say. Cause see, once you say these things, I know exactly what you think, and I know who my enemies are. So I'm just telling you that this is who Charlemagne the God, whose name I guess is Leonard. I keep forgetting what his name actually is. Anybody who calls themselves the God is suspect to me. I mean, that's just my personal thing. But anyway, so somehow the Breakfast Club became like the go-to place for politicians to go and talk to black people, which is really, really weird to me because the the Breakfast Club is a popular radio show, I think, in New York City that has a particular demographic. A lot of younger folks listen to it. And you got these white politicians, these old ass white politicians who've been around for a millennia, going on the Breakfast Club, pretty much a hip hop show, to talk to a bunch of young black folks. And these are people who they don't even pay any attention to find out what they are experiencing in their everyday life in the first place. But they think they're going to go on the Breakfast Club and make some jokes. And that's going to endear them to the black youth. Because that's what Hillary Clinton did, remember? That's what she did when she went on the Breakfast Club and made that joke about having hot sauce in her purse. And to the little tiny bit of scintilla of credit that I will give these people who are the hosts of this show, Charlemagne being one of them, they kind of half-heartedly pushed back on her and said, well, don't you think that's kind of pandering? People will say that's kind of pandering. And what was Hillary Clinton's response? Well, is it working? See, they think they can come on these platforms and joke with us because the people who run these platforms don't have a serious analysis of policy and politics and what people who are listening to their shows are facing in the first place. The Breakfast Club don't have any political answers to the issues that their listeners are experiencing, because according to Charlemagne the God, we got black privilege, so we don't need political answers. The civil rights movement is over. We don't need to deal with those issues anymore. These are the kind of people who are the gatekeepers of political thought on platforms like the Breakfast Club. And they're not the only one. I'm not, singling out the Breakfast Club in particular, because I'm also thinking of that clown ass Steve Harvey, who who is a guy who's been divorced like 89 times, still giving black women advice on how to get a man. These are the people who these are the people who these politicians go to in order to reach a demographic and convince them to vote for them, that they refuse to sit down and sit in a room and talk to like they do other voters. You don't see, and I just thought of this. You don't see politicians going on like classic rock radio stations. And I know, because I listen to classic rock, it's kind of depressing that Metallica is now considered classic rock, but it is what it is. But yeah, politicians aren't going on classic rock stations trying to get old white people to vote for them. Not, old, but you know what I'm saying? Politicians are not going on alternative rock stations. They're not going on country stations to get white people to vote for them. They only do this shit with black radio. And in my opinion, they go to the black radio that they know is safe. The black radio stations and shows that they know are not going to do a whole lot of challenging of their really horrendous policies when it comes to the black people who are listening to their shows. So they do what Biden did on the Breakfast Club this past week, when Biden was about to, I guess the show, Biden's time was up and whatever, and to his credit, I give people credit where it's due, even when I can't stand them, because I can't stand Charlemagne the God. I just, the transphobia, the misogyny, the homophobia, it's all in that, yeah. But he did challenge Biden on some of his policies that have negatively affected black people. And Biden did his, establishment Democrat shuck and jive, thinking that he could tap dance around these issues in the way that he does, with that cadence that I hate. It seems to me that the way Barack Obama had to practice how to talk to black people like he thinks, like somebody told him black preachers. In that black preacher cadence, did you notice that Obama did that? Well, we noticed it. That Obama, when he talked to black people, he changed his cadence so that it was almost like kind of a melodic sing-song kind of. That's the kind of thing black preachers do. And Obama had to practice doing that in order to talk to black people. And as he was doing that, he was also chastising black people for all of our many failings. Pull your pants up and be responsible, and don't have babies out of wedlock, and don't sit your children in front of the television with cold Popeyes. And that's the kind of shit he said to us as he was saying these things to us in that preacher cadence that somebody told him black people love. Biden does the same thing Only Biden acts like he's like playing the dozens, right? It's that like playful kind of jokey, I'm coming after you, but only in the way that like black people can do, because he spent too much fucking time around gatekeeper black capitalist, black misleadership class folks in the Democratic Party who have told him that, look, black people like it when you talk like this, when you talk about the cookout. This is why I don't engage in a whole lot of jokes like that about inviting white people to the cookout. You're not invited to the fucking cookout just because you can roll with some jokes with some black people, and you can drink some Henny, and you can do the electric slide. Fuck you. You're a politician. I need to know what policies you advocate that are going to make a difference in the material lives of my people. And that's the issue. That is the issue that Joe Biden sidestepped and honestly pissed on. Because Charlemagne was asking him, actually he was telling him that, look, even though the time is up, you have to come back on the show when you come back to New York, because we got more questions. Right? Now, in that regard, okay, I'll give Charlemagne credit. He was doing his job for once and being a journalist, I guess, and trying to speak for the people who are the constituents who potentially could vote for Joe Biden. And he was telling Biden, look, I got questions for how, what you are going to do for the people who are listening to this show if they vote for you. And Biden's response to, hey, look, I got more questions, or we got more questions. Biden's response was, look, if you're having a problem figuring out whether you're for me or for Trump, then you ain't black. Now, some people, let me see if I can grab this for you. And I'm not trying to shame folks with this. I just want to show you how desperate people are to defend this man, and how just really awful and messy those desperate attempts to defend him are. And they're just as bad as what he said, because you have people like Jamel Hill, who I'd have a lot of respect for, who said the issue wasn't what Joe Biden said because it was accurate. I don't see how the fuck what he said was accurate, but okay. She says the issue was that it came from Biden. No, not really. It also was clearly a joke that didn't land. Let me stop right there. No white man ever in the history of white people and black people and white supremacy, in the history of humankind, no white person ever has the right to question the blackness of black people. I don't give a damn if they think they joking. It ain't funny. It is not ever acceptable. Ever. Now, we can be cool and all that kind of stuff, and maybe these are things that you can joke with your white friends about in private, but I expect more. I demand more from elected officials, especially those who've been around as long as Joe Biden has been. He is old enough to know better, and this is indeed, for me, another one of those he said the quiet part out loud kind of things that we're always saying about Donald Trump. So no, this was not a joke. And if in Biden's mind it was a joke, what does it say about what Biden thinks about black people and our right as voters to ask him what he is going to do for us if we vote for him, that his response is a joke? And the joke is based on his deciding whether we are black or not if we don't vote for him. And then that's the other part of this, but I'm going to get to that in a second. Because then Jamel does what so many people have done in response to this that is so maddening to me. And I think it's intellectually lazy, but it's exactly why we are where we are politically right now. It's one of the reasons. She says, but I'm wondering where all this outrage was yesterday when y'all president declared his public devotion to a Nazi sympathizer. Now, when she said y'all president, I guess she's talking to white people. And okay, that's fine, but plenty of people were outraged about that. But my thing is, how are we continuing to use the racism of one person to excuse the racism of another person? How that work? Why are we still doing that? Why are we still defending racist, bigoted, sexist, sexually assault committing Democrats by pointing to how much worse the Republicans are in those regards? At what point do we just draw the line in the sand and say, you know what, Democrats, y'all done crossed this line for the last damn time. Y'all just like them. And if I can't differentiate between you and the Republicans because of the things that come out of your mouth and the things that you do, then why should I keep voting for you? And this does not mean, as so many people have responded to me personally and other people have said, that, oh, what are you going to do? Vote for Trump? Y'all stop being stupid. On most people's ballots in November for president, there will actually be more than one option. There will be Green Party options. There will be Libertarian options. Hell, Vermin Supreme might even be on that jump for some people. So the Democrat and the Republican parties are invested in making you continue to believe that you only have two choices to vote for. And because you people are afraid of disobeying either one of those parties because you're afraid of what would happen if enough folk actually thought for themselves, then you just keep parroting what they tell you. Oh, what you gonna do? Vote for Trump? No, I'm not. Just because I disagree with what Joseph Biden said, it doesn't mean I'm gonna vote for Trump. They're both racists. And that's like the thing that like blows my mind. I do love how the response here underneath is first showing is from Ben Dixon, our colleague over at the Ben Dixon show. And then what's the response right under that? Some idiot coming with the old right on cue, one of Bernie cult members. The whole reducing Black people's criticism of white politicians to we must be a member of some cult of another white politician, or we must be Trump voters, that just really lets me know that white folk honestly don't give a shit about what Black people say, need, want in regard to politics and policies. All a lot of white people want, and I'm talking about Democrats now. I'm talking about liberals, y'all. I'm not even talking about Republicans. They're so obvious with their shit. They don't care whether we vote for them or not. They don't care. But Democrats are the ones who do this. Liberals are the ones who they smile in our faces and they tell us, oh, well, the Republicans they hate you. They want to destroy you and all that kind of stuff. And that is true. That's absolutely true. But then the Democrats turn around, and when we criticize what Democrats do, what liberals do that are harmful to us, that are insulting to us, then they turn around and malign us. They turn around and browbeat us into basically staying silent and falling in line and voting for any candidate, any shitty, crappy, anti-Black, racist, bigoted, sexually assaulting candidate that they push out in front of us. Why? Because what are you going to do? Vote for Trump? So just to tell you, just to be I'm trying to get back on track. Just to show you, we did respond to Jamel Hill. Even when we respect people, we do have to push back on some of the messy things that they say. And understand, folks, I'm not telling people who they should or should not vote for. That's not my business. It's not my job to tell you who to vote for. It's our job to give you all the information that you need so that you can make an informed decision on who you should vote for. You just need to be clear on who you're voting for and why. I am more interested in finding out why people are voting for politicians. I'm more interested actually in finding out what people are voting for. That's what I want to know. I don't give a shit about who you're voting for because politics in this country has become a popularity contest and we have been conditioned to vote for personalities. The Democratic personality and the Republican personality. That's what we've been and this is part of the pushback, the challenge I had with some of the Bernie Sanders supporters because they elevated Bernie Sanders to this great personality, and you couldn't criticize Bernie Sanders on some of his missteps because if you did, then you were an enemy of Bernie and then you were voting for Trump. We have turned politics into cults of personality and personality contests and well, I should say the parties have done that and we've gone along with it to the point where we don't really know what we are voting for. Now with Sanders, that was slightly different because he actually had a platform that people appealed to. But when it came to criticizing that man, you couldn't criticize anything he did. And he did do things wrong that cost him. But when it comes to Democrats and Republicans, well, Democrats more than Republicans, because again, Republicans don't give a shit what black people say about them. But Democrats are the ones who always talk about they need our vote so bad. They need our vote. And further down, one of the responses to Jamel's tweet is, we, the black community, are all that Joe Biden has. And Jamel's response is, show me the lie. Why is that a defense of this man's racist ass comment? We all he got. That's the defense. That's not the defense. That is a ridiculous, I mean, if anything, that ought to be like the point at which the tables start to turn and we start to make demands of Biden for what he better do for us. But that's not what people are doing now. People are just defending his comments and saying, well, what are you going to do? Vote for Trump? So here's what we said to Jamel. He said what he said wasn't accurate. It wasn't funny. And using Trump as an excuse to defend Biden's latest bigotry is tired, which only says to me that if Trump is the only defense of Biden's bigotry you have, there is no defense. Because why, y'all? One racist doesn't negate the other. We've got more questions than that. And this was Biden telling us, fuck y'all's questions. I don't have to answer to you, because that's what he said. And we're trying to pass that insult off as a joke that didn't land because Trump is a worse racist. Nah, fam, no acceptable degrees of oppression. There is no defense of a white man questioning any black person's blackness because we have questions of him that he chose to reduce to us not knowing if we were going to vote for him or vote for Trump. So that was our response, excuse me, to Jamel Hill on Twitter. And, you know, I kind of hate Twitter, but I'm learning how to be a little bit more proactive with using it because that's where everybody is, I guess. And at some point, somebody's going to hop off and create some other platform that everybody's going to be on. And I'm not going to have anything to do with it because it's enough social media. But I mean, this whole thing about, you know, Biden is all we, you know, we all Biden got. So what? Look here. I knew someone who was just an evil, awful, just a horrible, horrible person. I am no longer friends with this person. And I tried really hard to get this person to see that, you know, the way you talk to people is real shitty. And this is the reason people don't like you, man, because you're real mean. I mean, you're real catty and you think you can say anything you want to people. And, you know, you think your friendship with people or people allowing you into their lives gives you a right to criticize what they say and do. And you be acting like they mama, and people don't appreciate that. And that's why people don't like you around. And the person didn't like it. And they said to me, well, you know, you're my only friend. How can you say that to me? I said, because it's true, number one. And number two, me being your only friend does not negate the fact that you are a shitty person to other people. That's why I'm your only friend. And if you don't stop, I'm not going to be your friend. You ain't going to have me as your only friend. That's how it's supposed to work. And then, as I said, we ain't friends no more because that person did not stop being a horrible human being. And because that person didn't stop being a horrible human being, then we weren't friends anymore. Joe Biden being in a position where black people are defending him by saying, we all Biden got, we're allowing ourselves to remain in an abusive relationship with the person. Not just with the Democratic Party in general, but with the person whose policies have caused so much damage, so much pain, so much destruction in the communities of poor black and Latino people in this country. And I've got to emphasize poor, because a part of the people who are defending Biden so much, I think, does come from a serious class schism that is within the black community that we gotta admit is there. I mean, the reason I'm not going to show you what Simone Sanders said, because Simone Sanders is taking the check from Joe Biden to defend him. She is one of the paid gatekeepers of Biden and his bigotry. I'm not going to show you what people like James Clyburn and who was it? I can't remember who it was who said that, oh, Biden has a comfort level among black people. I don't care how comfortable you are around me. You feeling like you can say anything to me because we're cool, or you think we're cool, doesn't have anything to do with legislation that doesn't only affect my life, but affects the lives of, 43 million other black people? So you being cool around black people, you being able to talk the lingo, you being able to hang out and be comfortable around the church mothers and another thing about this whole thing and people, the way people are responding, that's really bothering me. I'm checking my notes to make sure I stay on track. Is people bringing up all of the people who have died from COVID-19 because of Trump's, excuse me, hateful and evil, dismissive lack of response to the spread of the virus. What's going on, Anthea? Thank you. In response to what Biden said. So what people will say is, well, look, Trump, 90,000 Americans have died under Trump. What do you want to do? You want to have give Trump another 4 years to let him do worse? You know what that does? That completely negates all of the people who have died because of Biden's policies. Yes, absolutely. And we have said this on this show and on every other platform we're on. We've said it on By Any Means Necessary. We've said it, excuse me, on the Real News Network. We've said it on this show. Trump has the blood of nearly 100,000 Americans on his hands. He absolutely does. But let me just make this clear to you about Joseph Biden. Excuse me. This is from Salon magazine, and this was from 2008. It was a reprint from originally appeared in Alternate. It's the staggering death toll of the war in Iraq. It was written by Medea Benjamin of Code Pink and Nicholas J.S. Davies. This is from March 2018. So I just want to make it clear that this is a little dated. Let me see. Is this where it is? Let me see. Let me see if I can find the. Where is the reference? Oops. I lost it when I searched. There we go. You want to talk about the blood that Donald Trump has on his hands with the nearly 100,000 Americans who have died because of his lack of response to COVID-19. That's absolutely accurate. It's absolutely valid. It's absolutely true. But to dismiss the fact that Joe Biden voting for and defending his vote for the Iraq war cost an estimated 2.4 million Iraqis who have been killed since 2003, the invasion in 2003 of this country's illegal invasion of that country. And those are just estimates. That's just an estimate. The minimum could be 1.5 million. The maximum could be 3.4 million, because we're never going to find out the truth from the United States government for how many Iraqis, and we're talking civilians mostly, who have died as a result of the U.S. illegal invasion of Iraq that Joe Biden voted for, caped for, campaigned for, and defended. That's the blood of maybe 3.4 million Iraqis on his hands, and not just his, every other Democratic politician who voted for that war. But if you want to compare Donald Trump's the blood on Donald Trump's hands to the blood on Joe Biden's hands and act as if there is no blood on Joe Biden's hands, you are, in my opinion, expressing a kind of nationalism or nativism that is just as dangerous and hateful as this America First bullshit. Because what you're saying is these people don't matter as much as the 100,000 people who have recently died from COVID-19. And I'm not saying that to diminish the deaths of people from COVID-19. I've said that we personally know at least 4 people in our church community who have died from this virus. We know 2 people personally who have contracted the virus who have recovered. So we're not at all saying that the people who have died from COVID-19 are not as important as other people. What we are saying is that this response to criticism of Joe Biden's bigoted comments, by saying that, all of the blood on Trump's hands is more important than what Biden said, you're saying that all of these people, all of the blood of these 3.4 million, potentially 3.4 million people on Biden's hands are not as important a consideration in how dangerous Biden is to the world because Trump is dangerous right now. That's a problem. That is a real, that to me, that just speaks of a kind of the liberal version of America First or nativism or nationalism, where the only thing that is important in regard to what politicians do and policies is what happens to Americans. And y'all know that we're like that as a people who live in this country because our media is inclined to prioritize news that way. Whenever something happens in another country and a bunch of people are unfortunately killed, what's the second thing the American news anchor says? There were no U.S. casualties, or among the dead were 2 American citizens. I mean, there could be 40,000 people in another country died, but the U.S. media has to point out that there were 2 Americans killed. And we never know the names of the people of other countries who are killed. But we immediately know the names of the Americans who were. That's how we are conditioned to prioritize ourselves over everyone else in the world. And this response to criticism of Biden saying that Trump has blood on his hands, and do we want to continue with the blood? Do we want to continue to let Trump do this to Americans? Do we want to let Biden continue doing that to the rest of the world? Because he would. Have you seen Biden's latest platform policy on Israel? Have you seen that thing? Joseph, I am a Zionist, Biden? Biden recently celebrated the billions of dollars, the tens of billions of dollars in aid that this country continues to give Israel, even in the midst of a global pandemic. He said that it wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop it. And he said that he would even that the Palestinians need to take responsibility in their part in the lack of peace that they are experiencing. So the Palestinians chose to have their land stolen from them. They chose to be expelled from their homes. They chose to be rendered refugees in their own country. They chose to be refused the right of return, the internationally recognized right of return. Brewski is chasing a mouse. They chose to have, continually have, their internationally recognized right of return to their homes denied violently. They chose to be occupied by the U.S.-backed Israel army. They chose that. They chose to be corralled into the world's largest open-air prison. They chose that. That's what Joe Biden said. So this whole dismissing the blood that's on Biden's hands because of the blood that's on Trump's hands, that's some whole nother liberal America first kind of garbage that is also not a valid defense of Joe Biden's bigoted comments. Brucey really wants that mouse to get in here so he can chase it. So it's trying to get in through the dryer vent. It's just really annoying sometimes. Let's see. What else did I want to say? There was something else, and I don't want to miss it. Brewski, stop that. Oh, this is the other thing, folks, that I wanted that we really have to be careful. Oh, yeah, that's right. Let me not forget all of the other American lives that Joe Biden's policies have destroyed through the crime bill and through his other legislation. The reason student loan debt is as debilitating as it is, and it is so much harder to charge off student loan debt through bankruptcies, is because of Joe Biden. We've talked about the crime bill over and over again. We know the damage and destruction that piece of legislation has caused. How many lives has Biden destroyed through the crime bill, through his support? I think he voted to repeal Glass-Steagall. His support for the financial industry in setting the rules for who can charge off debt and which debt they couldn't charge off. How many lives have been destroyed because of those policies that came directly from Joe Biden, that he drafted the legislation, he voted for these policies, he campaigned on these policies. He's got a lot of destroyed lives on his hands. So, no, I mean, yeah, Donald Trump's lack of response to COVID-19 and the 100,000 people, because I do think we'll probably reach 100,000 dead by Tuesday. Those 100,000 people, their deaths are absolutely on Donald Trump's hands. But there is also death and destruction of millions of people on Joe Biden's hands, and to use Trump as a deflection from Biden's responsibility for the destruction he has caused. And among the very people whose lives he destroyed, you're going to tell black people whose lives have been directly impacted by Biden's and the Democrats' shitty policies that we need to excuse Biden's bigotry because we're all Biden has, when the whole conversation that this bullshit came from was about Charlemagne asking Biden, or trying to ask Biden, do you have our back? What are you going to do for us? You want us to vote for you? Okay, fine. What do we get? And in response to being asked of voters, what do we get if we vote for you? Biden reduced that, dismissed it, pissed all on it by saying, well, if you can't figure out whether you're going to vote for me or vote for Trump, then you ain't black. Imagine him saying that to Latino voters. Imagine him saying that to Asian voters. Imagine him saying that to Jewish voters. Hell, imagine him saying that to women. And I can't even really say that because women have come out caping for that man in the face of credible allegations from Tara Reid, saying stuff like, well, if Biden raped me, I'd still vote for him. I'm not kidding. People have said that. Why? Because Trump has sexually assaulted at least 22 women, and according to them, Biden's only possibly sexually assaulted one. That's where y'all are with this shit. You're in the worst abusive relationship with a politician that I think I've seen in a while. So, black people are and have been the only demographic of people in this country that are not allowed to question politicians and demand of them that we get something in exchange for our vote. Whenever we do that, we get these kinds of responses from Democratic politicians. Republicans will tell everybody the same thing. Like, Republicans will tell white voters, listen, this is the land of opportunity, and the government is too big, and people shouldn't get handouts, and if you work hard, you can make it in this country, and people shouldn't make excuses, and all the Republicans will tell white people that, and they will tell black people that. They don't ever change their story. They just don't. That's why why criticize Republicans? We know what they do. They haven't changed their story and their talking points in 50 years. Hell, they haven't changed their story since the Southern Strategy. But Democrats are the group of politicians, the liberal politicians who, when black people continually say, okay, I'm going to vote for your crappy politician for president, but what do we get? If they tell us they're going to do anything for us, it's always the same thing. It's investing in black businesses as if every black person owns a business or wants to. Some type of criminal justice reform that is never real criminal justice reform. It never addresses the power of police unions to protect police officers who kill unarmed, poor, black, Latino, and Native people. It never addresses real sentencing reform, because I'm sorry, reducing the disparity in crack cocaine and powdered cocaine sentencing from 100 to 1 to 18 to 1, that's still unequal. I mean, that's like saying I'm going to beat your ass 5 days a week as opposed to 7. And you should be glad that I'm only beating your ass 5. So the Democrats come with and now they're on the thing with expanding school choice and using public money from taxpayers to fund charter and private schools instead of improving public schools, instead of continuing to invest in public schools so everybody's kids could get a quality education. These are the same people who, when we say, what are you going to do about the broken healthcare system? Well, we can improve the ACA. And the ACA was never sufficient in the first place. So when we get policies from liberal politicians, especially white liberal politicians and a few black ones, that's the kind of shit we get. And then when we push back on that and say, no, what are you really going to do for us? Then we get this kind of garbage. Well, what are you going to do? Vote for Trump? Well, the choice that you have is to vote for us or to vote for Trump. No, those are not the only choices we have. And quite sadly, my friends, we believe those are the only choices that we have. You know, I talk all the time about an essay that W.E.B. Du Bois wrote in 1956 saying, I will not vote. Now, I'm not telling people not to vote. What you do with your right to vote is entirely your business. Again, it's not my job to tell you who to vote for, or whether you should vote or not. I will say that I do believe there are elections that are far more important than national elections, and that's midterms and your local elections, because you feel the impact of policies from your city council members, your school board members, your recorder of deeds, your the sheriff, your judges, your mayors. You feel those policies and the effects of those policies a lot sooner. And a lot more, they have a lot more impact on your everyday life a lot quicker than the presidential election every 4 years. So yes, voting absolutely has a purpose. But if you're going to vote, like I said at the top of the show, I feel like our job is to give you the information that you need to make an informed decision. I'm just telling you why the people responding to Joe Biden and defending his comments are just as despicable. The defenses of this man's comments are just as despicable as this man's comments, because what people are saying is that black people have no right to demand of Joe Biden that we get something for our vote for him if we're gonna vote for him. And ain't you tired? Ain't you tired of white people telling you that you have no right to whatever? Here is someone who, according to folks on Jamel Hill's timeline, oh, black people are all Joe Biden has. Well, if we're all he's got, then we ought to be able to demand some things of him. And if he does not commit to deliver, and I don't mean going on a radio show and saying, okay, I'm fitting to do that for y'all. No, you're gonna put that shit on paper, and that's gonna be in your platform, and you gonna announce that platform. That's gonna be on your platform at the Democratic National Committee. Nah, fuck all this working groups with progressive people. And no. You listen to the black people whose votes you need to win. Since we all you got. I don't understand how it is we're in a political relationship with a party, and we know that they do not win elections if we do not vote for them, but we refuse to demand that they do anything to change the material condition for an enormous segment of our people. And this is where the classism comes in, y'all. I'm just going to tell y'all real straight. There are some black people who I'm not questioning their blackness. I am questioning their commitment to class solidarity. Because while no white person ever has a right to question the blackness of any black person for any reason, we do have to be honest that there are some black people who really don't care about what happens to poor black folk. And they will continue to vote for these anemic, capitalist-friendly policies, the improving investment in black businesses. And black businesses are important, but as I said, everybody isn't going to own a business, and everybody doesn't want to. So what are you going to do about all those black people who don't want to own a business? What are you going to do about black people, those black people who work in low-wage service industry jobs, who they cannot unionize, they can't demand better wages, they don't have paid sick leave, they don't, they live in segregated neighborhoods, there are no resources in their neighborhoods, the public transportation is shit, there are no health resources, the public schools are garbage. What are you going to do for those people? What are you going to do to punish? Here's the thing. What are you going to do to punish businesses, entities, institutions that continue to racially discriminate against people? When are we going to talk about the enforcement of laws against racial discrimination? Because we always talk about how, we can't change people's hearts, but that's never the point. The point is not changing people's hearts. I don't really give a shit about what you feel in your heart. What I do care about is you no longer having the ability to discriminate against my people and deny my people equal access to opportunity and the right to pursue a decent quality of life and get away with it and profit from it. When are we going to do something about that? Why can't we challenge politicians and ask them, okay, if you want me to vote for you, you need to tell me what you are going to do about these things. And we're in a situation now because there are some people who want to work within the Democratic Party to push the party to the left. But some of these people are the same folks who don't want to listen to organizers outside of the Democratic Party, radicals outside of the Democratic Party, leftists outside of the Democratic Party, socialists like me outside of the Democratic Party. And they don't want to listen to the things that we see in regard to the race and class issues that need to be addressed. They don't want to listen to us because we don't want to be sucked up into the Democratic Party. So they dismiss us. And we keep getting these politicians like Joe Biden and these people who are committed to, I don't know, a more polite type of oppression. Defending a bigot and a sexist. I don't know what else you want to call Joe Biden. We've all seen that man invade the space of women and girls on video for years, and now people are acting like he's fine. People are advocating for this man because they believe that Donald Trump is worse, but what people are not being honest about, and maybe a lot of people just don't know, is that it has been Biden's policies, the Democratic Party's policies, Barack Obama's policies that were left on the floor that Donald Trump just picked up and made something else with. Donald Trump is the result of decades of bad neoliberal policies, and you have to understand what neoliberal means in order to understand that this is not something that one particular party subscribes to. Both parties are neoliberal, capitalist, warmongering vehicles that use legislation to prioritize capitalism and corporations and the rich and warmongering and defense contractors, making corporations people and being fine with it, and denying you and me a decent quality and standard of life. And you got people defending Joe Biden because he's nicer about all of that than Donald Trump is. So the last thing I want to say before I go and do some Memorial Day gardening, yay, and get ready for Mr. Luqman's birthday dinner, is y'all, please don't get played by the GOP right now. Don't get played by that. We saw that some GOP organization has already put out T-shirts lambasting Joe Biden's racist comments. I'm not even mad at him because, I mean, they're right. He gave him the material. I don't know what you want me to say. He gave him the material. I mean, he just made it easy for them. But that does not mean you have to agree with the Be careful that you research the people whose opinions you are co-signing on. You know, just because Candace Owens can come out now and say that Joe Biden is an example of the racism of the Democratic Party, that doesn't mean that Candace Owens has any kind of validity in the political discourse. She doesn't. A broken clock is right at least twice a day. So these Republicans, in pointing out that Joe Biden is indeed a racist, this is the one of the 2 times of the day that their broken clock is right. That doesn't mean you try to tell time by their clock all the time. That's ridiculous. Be real careful that you don't get played by the GOP, because this is absolutely going to be a ploy that they use to suck some black people into the Republican Party. And I mean, it might work. It might work. We're all deeply propagandized and misinformed and miseducated in this country about politics, and not whose side we are on, but who is on our side. That's like the thing I want you to take from this whole mess. I think we need to stop looking at our role in electoral politics as whose side we are on. Like, who are we voting for? This is why I get so annoyed when people ask me, when I criticize any Democratic candidate, what are you going to do? Vote for Trump? I'm talking about, if I'm going to vote, I want to talk about the things that I want to vote for. Like Eugene Debs said, I would rather vote for something I want and not get it than vote for something I don't want and get that. That's got to be the standard from now on, rather than whose side are we on? Are we on the Democrat side? Are we on the Republican side? Are we on Biden's side? Are we on Trump's side? We need to flip that around, and we need to start asking, who's on our side? And if we can't even ask that question of the Democratic candidate, because we know when we ask Donald Trump, when we ask the Republican, well, are you on our side? We know what we're going to get from him. Some bullshit. We know that. But if we ask that question of Biden, and he won't even answer it sincerely, as if our question actually merits a real, sincere, legitimate, thoughtful answer that reflects that he respects our votes and the needs we have as a people, then please tell me why I should be shamed into voting for either one of them. Why should I be concerned that people's political imagination is so bereft of the realities of where we are that they don't know any better than to use the specter of 4 more years of one racist against me when I question the racism of the other candidate who has 40 years of a track record of racism? What Why you think I'm gonna be mad? Why you think that's gonna compel me to vote for Joe Biden? It's not. And I'm certainly not telling you that you should be compelled to vote for either one of them because of any of those things. What I'm just saying is, we need to do a way better job of having conversations about what it is we want from the politicians we vote for and how we respond to them when their response to us is we don't even have a right to ask. This isn't a joke. What we need as far as policies and politicians and legislations, it ain't a joke. So on even that basic level, what Joe Biden said is insulting because he reduced the need for a serious conversation for what he could do for black people who vote for him to just a joke that he could just pass off as, oh, well, I don't really have to deal with that. Fuck y'all gonna vote for me. Either that, you ain't black. Okay. Fuck around and find out. That's all I'm saying. Oh boy, I think I covered all my points. I think we have covered this topic as much as we ever want to talk about it. Again, I am sure Joe Biden is going to say some more ridiculous mess that's going to make us have to talk about him again before November comes. Oh, just in closing, just keep this in mind. Please keep this in mind. Joseph Biden was selected as Barack Obama's running mate as a signal to white people who were nervous about having a black man as president that Joe Biden was not going to let Barack Obama do too much for black folks. Joe Biden was the way that the Democrats under Obama appeased white people and soothed the fears of white people that Obama was going to give away the store to black folks. Obama and the Democratic Party were well aware of Joseph Biden's horrendous record in regard to racial issues, all the shitty things he has said about black people and black parents not being able to read and just not wanting his kids to grow up in a racial jungle. They knew all this. They knew his legislative record, and they pushed Biden to be Obama's running mate to signal to white people who were still nervous about voting for the black guy that don't worry, black folks ain't gonna get a whole lot. Mostly it's gonna be business as usual. You can vote for the black guy and everything is gonna be okay. Nobody's coming after your stuff. Because see, Joe Biden is here to make sure Barack doesn't go too far. So when you've got Michelle Obama talking about in her book and in her documentary, her trauma is her people not showing up to give Obama the Congress that he needed to get things done, and her people didn't show up to vote. She leaves that part out conveniently. The buffer that Kai Watts says to prevent Obama from doing anything for black folks. Thank you. She leaves that part out, and she leaves the part out where the Democratic Party told Barack Obama not to campaign with the Democrats in the midterms in his first term. Remember that? Because the Tea Party painted him as too toxic. And the Democrats went right along with it and told the sitting president of the United States not to campaign, not to appear on the campaign trail with Democrats who were running in the midterms in the states because he was too toxic. And they told those Democrats not to campaign on any of Obama's policies up to that point. That's what the Democratic Party did. So all this shaming black voters for what we don't do and who we don't support, and for questioning candidates. That needs to end. Even if it comes from black people. It is just a defense of these people and this system in the face of black voters legitimately questioning what we are going to get from these people if we keep voting for them. It's just as despicable as the despicable way we have been treated by these folks. And I don't care who comes with that narrative. I don't care if it's Jamel Hill. I don't care if it's Simone Sanders. I don't care if it's James Clyburn. I don't care if it's Michelle and Barack Obama. They are just as despicable in defending these people and this system against the valid questions black people have as to what we're going to get if we keep voting for you as the system is itself. So, y'all, thanks a lot for joining me today. Wish Mr. Luqman a happy birthday. We're going to go have some fun now while he continues to rest and recuperates and gets his strength back. And he'll be back soon enough, and we will see you again. If you like what you see and hear in Luqman Nation, please join us over on Patreon, patreon.com/Luqman Nation, LuqMannation. There are some articles that we've got up there. Got some video. We are planning our victory or survival garden. Hopefully that'll work out really well because we went really big this year and planning to do some more. There's some special content for our patrons. And as always, subscribe to us on YouTube, invite your friends, like us on Facebook, share our videos. And as always, folks, be really good to each other. Peace if you are willing to fight for it.